Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. This is the Sunderland versus Cardiff City live preview. Let's talk some championship football. I apologise there. I got a bit distracted because I had about 3 shows going on in my ears for all of a sudden. It's all a bit confusing. But we're going to have a good in-depth look at Sunderland versus Cardiff for tomorrow. And we'll probably have a little look at the fixtures, the results that went on today. Just have a good old chat this Saturday night. It's a bit of an unusual time slot, but a bit of a change, isn't it? Bit of a change, like. I am absolutely exhausted and in pain and everything which goes with it. So you'll have to bear with me if I get a bit kerfuffled. But we're good. Can't believe Everton won a game of football. Wow. Wonders never cease, as they say. It's a funny game. But yeah, big game tomorrow. Sunderland versus Cardiff City. Tell you what, let's start actually by looking at that championship table and whatnot. Leicester looking really strong. Them and Ipswich both on 21 points. Preston dropped points today, so they've dropped down to third. But those are like that top 4, Sunderland included. Although Sunderland are a little bit behind, are kind of really setting the pace. But I tell you what, the way Cardiff have played all season, particularly in the last 4 games, but I think particularly the last 2 games especially, but I think every game except that QPR game, we've been very, very good. And I think if Cardiff can get a win tomorrow, they'll go up to 6th and in the playoffs. And there is no reason why Cardiff cannot go on a run now and be right up there with the rest of the teams. They're 10 points behind the 2 teams at the top. I think that's quite a gap. But in this league, that can be like just a few results. But most importantly, Cardiff just got to keep getting these wins, because what we want to not have any hint of relegation. And we're on the right trail. So I guess it comes down to whether we can just keep that form going. What can the manager come up with in terms of tactically? Because I think, if we look at Sunderland, they got 1 or 2 really, really top players for this level. But what they have got is they haven't really got any superstars in there, or traditional championship superstars. But what they've got is a really good team. They got a good manager, and they've got momentum. They were really good last year. Very started this season all right, and then they've picking it up. So Sunderland hosting Cardiff City, looking to get their 4th win in a row. Sunderland, they sit 4th in the league. They're a little bit off the top 3, but not too far. A couple more wins and they'd be up there. It's really weird. So I was reading that there was a kind of big push in certain areas of Sunderland, the Northeast newspapers, some fan forums and stuff like that, to get rid of Tony Mowbray in the summer, which is wild to me. They came up from League One. They had a really good thing in the Championship, only just missed out on playoffs and things like this. But then they got off to a bad start, and I bet he was thinking, oh, here we go. But he turned it around, and if you look at the 2 teams they lost to Preston and Ipswich, who were 2nd and 3rd. And that top 3 is really solid. They've been ahead of everyone else. So similar to Cardiff, they had a difficult start, whereas Cardiff was a bit more spread out. But they've recovered from that. They've got 13 from the last 15 points, Sunderland. In the top 4, they are, like I said, they are a bit off. If they win, they'll be up to 16, sort of just 4 off. They have been very, very good. And one thing they do really, really well is they play well as a team, but they've scored 11 goals in their last 3 outings against Southampton, Queen's Park Rangers and Blackburn. That's 3 big teams. Traditional footballing team in terms of Southampton, QPR, Blackburn. This championship stalwarts, not easy to beat. And Sunderland pretty much steamrolled all 3. So we have to be aware that, yes, we're in good form. Yes, Cardiff are doing well. but you ain't going to just go there and outplay them and steamroller them. If you're not on it, you've got to really Cardiff got to be on it tactically, physically, mentally. Everything's got to be on point tomorrow, or we'll get unstuck. The Cardiff squad looks capable of doing some stuff. I really do think that. I truly believe that even if we don't bring in Kiefer Moore in January, like I think we might on loan, I still believe this squad is capable of being there or thereabouts in the Championship playoffs come the end of the season. Certainly a top 10 finish. I'll come back to Cardiff in a little bit. Have a look at some of the team news in terms of Sunderland. Tony Mowbray probably will not make too many changes from the starting lineup versus Blackburn because they've been playing well. They've had a good season. Although Mason Burstow, who's on loan from Chelsea, very highly rated, very, very good footballer, good player, hasn't quite got going yet. But I think there's time. Patrick Roberts is another option. Might come back in the team. But it'd be interesting if he goes for like a recognised number 9, or if someone like a false 9. One player I think Cardiff do need to watch, who maybe isn't necessarily the first name on everyone's lips. He might not start. Is Bradley Dack. Been good for him off the bench in recent times. So I think the Sunderland lineup will probably be something like Patterson, Hume, O'Nine, who I really like. I don't know if I see pronounce his name, but captain, signed a new contract. Really like him. He's a player. Ballard, Huggins, Barr, Joby Bellingham, Neil, Pritchard, Jack Clark, and then Burstow up front, probably. Maybe Patrick Roberts. The danger men for me, in terms of who is going to provide and create for Sunderland, is Jack Clark is on fire at the moment. But Joby Bellingham, people write him off because he's Jude Bellingham's brother. He's not as good as him, mate. Let me tell you something. This kid, and he is a kid still, he is a player. And I think it was a really astute move by his family, his advisors, him, to go to Sunderland and not make that jump too soon. He's playing in a team which is full of young footballers, good manager, well backed, but it's a big club as well. So it's preparing him to keep going. He's a really good footballer, and I've been really impressed with him this year. He's very clever, uses the ball, rarely wastes it. So I think that's how they'll set up. Maybe Patrick Roberts comes in instead of Burstow. I don't think Bradley Dack will start, although he did do well after coming on the other day. So it's going to be interesting. But Cardiff will be interesting, like tactically, and the lineup they go with, which I'll talk about that in a bit. But like tactically, I wonder whether the manager will come up with a way to try and combat the way Sunderland play. A lot of Sunderland's dangerous players are kind of down the spine. You know, Jack Clark, Bellingham, O'Nine, like these are all really good footballers, but they're down the spine of the team. So whether he'll revert to that tactic which he used the other day of trying to overload the middle and utilise the wide areas for Cardiff, which I don't think is the worst idea. But will he do that, or will he try and worry more about Cardiff's what we can do? I don't think so. I think Bulut will set up to try and make us very difficult to break down, and then try and get Sunderland on the break, quite similar to how he played at Leicester and Leeds. But in the Leicester game particularly, we actually controlled the ball really well, played quite well in spells. I think the blueprint for it on the ball should be the Swansea game. On the ball, Cardiff City kept the ball really well, didn't panic, very calm, moved it about a bit, tried to draw on Swansea's press. And I think that's a good way to play away from home, is don't be in a rush to just blast it forward. Play, the reason we've got these defenders and midfielders who are comfortable on the ball and play on the ball is because we want to play out from the back. So you need to do that. Try and draw. You got got to be brave and you've got to try and draw Sunderland. Sunderland, they're going to press. Sunderland, they're going to be high tempo. They're going to try and take it off us. So we have to try and find a way to deal with that, and get past that. So to me, that's the kind of blueprint on the ball. Off the ball, your winger's got to tuck in. You've got to make it, like a 4-5-1, so they'll be difficult to break down. It's going to be interesting, because I like Bulut so far. I like the Cardiff manager. I think he's got a plan in him, and so far, generally speaking, his plans have worked most of the time. So it's interesting, right? Because I've seen a lot of journalists saying Cardiff were not overly convincing against Coventry and Swansea, but actually, I disagree. I thought the Coventry game was two kind of not sloppy goals, but avoidable goals, should we say? And I think Coventry game, if we had won 3-0, 3-1, I thought we deserved that absolutely and wholly. It was never a 3-2 game. Whereas then the Swansea game is a derby game and stuff like that. So you're kind of trying to deal with the atmosphere and the rest of it. I thought on the ball we were pretty good. And I thought ultimately Cardiff deserved 6 points from that. But they also deserved something out of the Leicester game. They deserved to beat Leeds. We have been unlucky. Coventry, I think, was tired mind, tired legs, like Reece just said there. And I think it just comes down to actually those journalists are wrong. Cardiff did deserve those 6 points. They were pretty convincing. I think both games were pretty one-sided, even though the scorelines maybe didn't project that. And if Cardiff play the way they have all season, they set that QPR game, then they'll have a good chance of pinching something. So Cardiff look like I said earlier, they look like they've got a squad which is capable of launching a playoff bid, top 10. Maybe we're 1 or 2 off really, really pushing in. But we've got to cut out these late goals. So do you say the second goal against Coventry, was that tired minds, tired legs, or is that the continuation of a pattern? I don't know. I thought it was a little bit fortunate. Cardiff look a threat all the time going forward. We've got wide players who are quick, direct. We've got a number 10 who's the best in the league. We've got a backup number 10 who's young and hungry. We've got players to come off the bench who can change games. We've got a midfield kind of 2 or 3 who can play deep and do the things that we need to do. We can play out from the back. It's really, really quite an interesting little thing. So I think the initial thought is, well, Joe Rawls is going to drop out. Ramsey's going to come back in. And we're going to kind of go Wintle, Sarpis, Ramsey, blah, blah. As I said, the manager's got a plan. Manager's always got a plan. The danger men for me, Jack Clark, Bellingham. Bellingham's going to play that little bit deeper. Jack Clark will be in the sort of number 10 position. So how do you combat that? Well, so first and foremost, I think the back 5 pretty much picks itself at the moment. I feel for Panzo, who's come in from Forest, because I think the plan was probably to get him in sooner than later, but McGuinness has been outstanding, and since they swapped sides, Gutas looks much more comfortable. So Panzo's going to have to bide his time. His time will come. It's a long season. There's EFL games coming up, so he'll have time. He's just got to be patient. So I think the back 5 picks itself. It's going to be Anwick, again, outstanding season so far. I believe he's from the Northeast as well, so it's going to be a big game for him. Sure, he'll have family and friends in and around the stadium, so hopefully he can continue his good form. And then you'll have NG and Collins either side of on the fullbacks. Jamalu Collins, last 2 games, has been outstanding. And I think those of us who are saying just give him a bit of time to, just to get back after his injury. But, even I said, was it before the Swansea game after the international break, I said, is this the game just to give him a little rest? But no, it was the right decision to keep him in and then build on it. That 50-50 was what he needed. We got EFL Cup versus Blackburn as well in the week, so I think a lot of them will get a chance for that. We'll talk about that in a bit. So you got NG, Gutas, McGuinness, Collins. I think that picks itself. Then this is where I think maybe Bulut comes up with a plan. So let me float something by you. I think there's a chance, instead of playing the 4-2-3-1, there's a chance we might go with a kind of 4-3, and then a bit of a mixture. 4-3-1-2 is what I think it'll be. And I'm guessing, let's be honest, just guessing that what Bulut's plan might be. So I think he might go with Wintle, Siopis deepest, then Wintle and Rawls. Then I think he might go Ramsey. And then I think he might go with Mate and Grant, probably. I think there's a few players who will be a bit unlucky to drop out with that. I think Ugbo would be unlucky not to start. And I think Tanner would be unlucky not to start. I think both had really good games in the last week. But there's a reason why I think he'll try and use the fullbacks to break. Siopis will drop in to cover them. You've got Rawls and Wintle to kind of control the midfield, get in and around Jack Clark and Bellingham. Ramsey to have a bit of a free role. Mate will be a bit more central. And then what Grant will do is him and Ramsey will play off him. Ramsey will drop into the space in more of a traditional number 10. And Grant will try and get down the channels and in behind, but he'll be in and out. He'll maybe start as like in a more central area and then go in and out in the channels and kind of try and work it like that. I think that's how they may try and combat the Sunderland's strength in the middle of the pitch. And then when we lose the ball, Ramsey will drop in centrally, Grant will drop in on one side, and they'll be 4-5-1 again. Maybe. So that's one plan I think the manager might come up with. The other one is just Wintle Siopis as a 2, Ramsey 10, Grant, and then Tanner or Mate. I think I would go with Mate and Grant, I think, as the wide players. And that's not because I think Tanner deserves to be dropped. It's because I've been quite impressed with Mate's work rate, but also his output in terms of chance creation and shots and stuff. Like, I've just been very impressed with him. The last sort of game and a half, I think he's been really good. Goal to Manchester United. Could you guess who scored? Johnny Evans. Unbelievable. Couldn't write this shit, could you? So, like, I've been impressed with Mate, and I think Mate on the break, particularly, has got a little bit more pace than Ugbo. So, unfortunately, if it was me, I'd play Mate through the middle as the number 9, and I would play Tanner and Grant as the wingers. Oh, VAR's checking it, apparently. So, like, yeah, I would go with that, but I'm trying to guess what I think the manager will do. So if I was picking, I'd go Mate or Robinson, probably Mate through the middle, and I would go Ramsey, I'd go Tanner, and I would go Grant. Because Tanner and Grant will slot in and do the defensive work, but can also be direct and really do some damage on the counter-attack. Cardiff City got to be clinical on the counter-attack. They've got to, when they transition, when they win the ball in midfield, they've got to transition quickly to the wide players, to the strikers in behind, and they have to take their chances. I don't think that Cardiff will have 10 shots on goal, etc. I think it's going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. It's not going to be many. And I think disallowed goal. It's funny. So yeah, I think Cardiff will need to be clinical in the way they go about their business when they get the chances. Let's have a look at some of the comments. In terms of the late goals, Reece says, hard to judge. If it was a normal league game last Saturday and we conceded those two goals, I'd say silly mistakes. But the derby is something else and the emotions would be high. So I say tiredness. He also says, can see with the Blackburn game in the Cup Tuesday, Panzo, Runnison, Adams, Ruben Corwell, Robinson all start midweek. Yeah. And that's why I think he might stick with the, he won't change it too much. So like the likes of Mate, I think Robinson will keep coming off the bench. Reece says, personally, I think we have the players to go out there and just play our natural game, force them to change their style to counter us. It's risky, mate. It's risky to do that we know the Championship, anyone could beat anyone. Sunderland, they're in form. It's a big ground. There's going to be a big atmosphere. If you just go there without a plan defensively and tactically, I think you can get unstuck. But that's not to say, like I said, what I would do, I would go with Mate up front. I would go with Grant and Tanner as my wingers, Ramsey at 10, Siopis and Wintle. And I would, to a certain extent, do what you're saying, but I would do it in a way that off the ball, we're defensively solid. And then on the ball, we can hit them at real pace. And I think that's going to be the key is when you win the ball, got to be able to transition from winning the ball to chances very, very quickly. But then also, when you get those chances, you've got to take them. Ramsey has been in absolutely scintillating form. One thing I will say about Aaron Ramsey, right, is that if he's not fit, don't start him. If the thigh injury is anywhere near an actual injury, then don't start him. I know that's easy to say, but we've got a long season ahead. The players who've stepped in, there's other players who are in good form at the moment. So I don't think you need to risk Ramsey. If he was just because he can't play 2 games in a week and he was a bit stiff, great, fine, play him. Let's go. If he's actually carrying a thigh strain and it's not fully recovered, put him on the bench. It's okay. We can deal without Aaron if we have to for a game or 2. What we can't and don't want is to have to deal with him without him for 6 months or 6 weeks or whatever. Like there's something in that. Like, look, gotta think for the season, not just for Saturday or Sunday as it is. I'd really like to see what Bulut comes up with. I'm really fascinated by it because changing tactics is not always a negative thing. Because, like I said, with that plan of the 4-3-1-2 or 4-3-2-1, he's played a similar system before. I think it was the EFL Cup where he played. I think it was Ugbo, or it might have been Mate. He played one of them, and he played Ramsey, he played Corwell and someone else as like 2 number 10s almost. And I think it can work. I think it's quite an interesting little thing because Carlin Grant has looked really good the last couple of games. He's going to work hard. So if you have him and Ramsey as almost like 2 number 10s behind Mate on the ball, I think that can be really interesting for Cardiff. Let me see if I can find the game where they lined up in that way. It was one of those things. I wouldn't be devastated either. I think it's a big game, so I doubt, it's a big away game. So I don't think they would play Ruben Corwell from the start. I wouldn't be devastated, though, if he started. If Ramsey's carrying an injury, would not be whatsoever, disappointed by that. Just trying to see which game it was. I know they've definitely done it since the season started, played with 2 10s behind someone. I'll find it in a minute. Wasn't Birmingham, was it? But guys, I'm interested in what you think and how you think it'll kind of go, how we'll line up, how we'll try and combat Sunderland, how we'll also then try and implement our own game. So against Birmingham in the EFL Cup, he played a 5-3-2 or a 3-5-2. So he utilised Grant and Tanner as wingers. I think that's another potential way to overload the middle, but also have some serious legs on the outside. And I actually prefer this to the first plan I said about the 2 10s with 3 in midfield. I really, really like this. So you could go with Gutas, McGuinness, and NG, because I do really like NG in a 3. But you could also put Panzo in there, I guess. And then have Tanner and Grant as your wing backs. Both got the legs, the energy, the work rate to do it. And then you can have Wintle, Siopis, Rawls. And then you have Ramsey off Ugbo or Mate. I think I like that to a certain degree. But I don't think we need to change too much. I agree with what you're saying, Reese, in the comments about we should try and let them force the change for us. I agree to a certain extent. I think don't try and get too coy with the tactics. Let's be, don't try and be too clever. Don't break what's not, don't fix what's not broken. We've done really, really well. The players know the system. It suits the players we've got. We can still overload the midfield and the central, not even the midfield, the central areas to cause problems for their danger players and utilize the wings without a big change of system and stuff like this. And I guess, do you know what? It all comes down to how much they've worked on different systems in training since he's come in. If they've worked constantly every week on 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, 4-3-2-1, 5-3-2, and stuff like this. They've done that constantly, and they can switch seamlessly. Then that's different. Because I tell you something, we've looked much more comfortable playing 3 at the back the couple of times I've seen it this year than we ever did last year. Last year, every time we tried to play 3 at the back, even though on paper it looked like a good idea, we never quite clicked. We never quite got it going. Whereas this year, I've been quite impressed with how we've gone about it. Sunderland's going to be difficult. They came back to beat QPR. They put 5 on Southampton, and they also comfortably beat Blackburn. Jack Clark was excellent against Blackburn. He absolutely was. He caused them all sorts of problems. So United have got to be really, really careful. United, just because it's just flashed out on the screen. Cardiff have got to be really, really careful in don't get too carried away. Everyone's got to do their jobs. Everyone's got to take responsibility off the ball. When we lose the ball, the wingers got to slot in and become a 5. You've got to we have to be very difficult to break down. Don't get lazy because we won a couple of games. Don't get, so-and-so will do it or someone else will do it. You've got to they got to dig in. Who would you play number 9? Out and Mate? Would you go Mate or would you go Ugbo? I think he seems to have played Mate more in the away games as the 9. As long as it's not a Tete, I'll be happy because me and a Tete got issues at the moment. I don't like some of the stuff I'm seeing, but what a finish. What a finish against Coventry. Fair play to the boy. What a great finish that was. I'd like to see us really mate. Well, let me tell you something, right? If Cardiff City go and beat Sunderland at Sunderland, then we are really, really going to be cooking. To go from international break, a good solid start to the season, but without getting the results, to then come out of that and beat Swansea comfortably, Coventry comfortably, and then go away to Sunderland and get 3 points, that would be sensational. Reese says, Mate seems to be doing well, come off the right. Personally, I'd love to see Robertson start at number 9, but not sure if he's fit enough to start yet. So, yeah, I've said many times, mate, as you know, that in my opinion, Robinson's the best finisher at the club, and he absolutely has to, by the time, like when he's fit, he should be the number 9. His link-up play is good. He can get in behind. He works hard. He presses. Everything which we're looking for in our system. And he's also a good finisher. He would be my choice for number 9 once fit. I don't think he's fit enough to start. I also don't think at this point Bulut will start with a kind of that kind of profile number 9. I think he's looking more for a target man, someone who can link up play, hold up play, like an Ugbo, maybe a Mate. I think I'd go with Ugbo. I was really impressed by Ugbo the last couple of games. I thought, particularly against Coventry, not so much against Swansea, but against Swansea as well, I thought there was a real marked improvement in his link-up play. He dropped deep. He played a couple of lovely little balls inside the fullback to Carl and Grant. I think one of them ended up being offside, but he just dropped in, good first touch, and then a little turn around the corner for Grant. But then there was another one where he dropped in, little knockback to Aaron Ramsey, and he just knocked it in behind the Swansea defence. Like, I really believe that Ugbo has got a bit of potential, and I think we're starting to see him settle. He's already shown that he's got a little bit of a knack to be in the right time at the right place for the scrappy goals, but it was whether we could sacrifice his link-up play. But now he's starting to show that he can do a bit of that, and he works hard. Like, the difference between him and Atete is really massive in terms of, as soon as Atete comes on, Cardiff go long. Is that because Atete doesn't come in and want the ball to feet, and so they've got to just lump it up to him? But it affects the team drastically whenever Atete comes off the bench. We drop so deep, we go really direct, and it becomes a bit of a slog and a bit of a struggle. Whereas we've done the best, Cardiff have been at their best against all teams. Leicester, Leeds, the rest of them, all of them. Cardiff have been at their best when they have played their game, kept the ball, pass, move, try and draw on the press from your opponents, and then play through them. That's when we've been at our best. Matthew says, if you go with Ugbo, with Robinson to replace him around 60 minutes, depending on how the game's going, I sometimes think if you've got someone who's not fully fit, would it be better to start him? Yeah, I could see the logic to that, mate. I think one of the things with it is I actually think that the manager at this time, and it might change as if the team keeps developing and keeps doing well, and the more we grow into his system and the more we start to control games and play well and play on the ball and, like, you know, get that passing and moving and everything which goes with it going, then I think he might fancy a Robinson type of profile. But I think at the moment, where we're still getting to grips with his system, we're still just sort of growing into how he wants to play. I think that's why I think he just will go with that more traditional style of number 9. But I don't think that's the long-term plan necessarily, unless it's like a Kiefer Moore. Then I think that's different, because Kiefer Moore is a Premier League proven player. But we got some tremendous players to come off the bench. The options for the manager, as we currently stand, is such a refreshing change to have these options to change games. So what is better? Is it better if you've got a player who's coming back from an injury or is not quite fit? Give him an hour, let him empty the tank, so to speak, as Matthew puts it, and then bring someone in? Or do you just give him half hour at the end of the game or 10 minutes and build him up that way? I'm not sure, mate. I guess the one thing would be the starter games are a lot more intense, a lot quicker. So perhaps that's the thinking, particularly with someone like Robinson. Like he can do more damage as well with tired players, with his pace and his pressing. Like Robinson, I really like him. We haven't seen the best of him in the Cardiff City shirt yet either. I think we've seen glimpses, but we haven't seen the very best of him. And I think as he gets fitter now, when we get him up to full tilt this year, I think we'll see the best of Callum Robinson, because I think when he gets up to full tilt this year, we've now got a manager and a team who plays in a way that's going to suit Robinson, getting in behind, pressing team, actually playing football, not just lumping it up, being really direct. So I'm kind of really happy to see that. I was watching the Swansea and the commentary games, guys, and I was just like, what am I watching? Like, this is so refreshing as a Cardiff City fan after so many years of Mick McCarthy and Neil Harris and Neil Warnock. Like this just drab, painful at times football. Like to see us just being so confident on the ball and just like knocking it about I just love it. I watched that Coventry game after the Swansea game, obviously, and like just watching it and just I just had a smile on my face, because just watching Cardiff be so comfortable on the football. But we've been like that all year. I think it was just because we'd had the result in the South Wales derby. And it is a results game at the end of the day. Like we used to mock Swansea for playing lovely football but not getting the results. Like you don't want to become that team. You need a bit of bite and a bit of fight, which I think Siopis, Wintle, they bring. But you also want to be a team which plays football the right way. Ultimately, all of us like watching good football. And when it's your team playing the good football, it's even better. So, yeah, I'm very, very happy. How do I see did I do a key man? Key man, now Manchester United scored. Apparently, it's an absolute worldie from Bruno Fernandes. A little update for you guys. So how do I see the game playing out? I think it's going to be quite open in terms of, I think it's going to be almost like end to end. Cardiff have got some defenders who are, there you go, McGuinness, spraying the ball around. He's so good on the ball, mate. I can't believe the difference in Mark McGuinness to even 12 months ago. Is that down to the manager's coaching? And since he's come in, has Mark McGuinness just got that much better? Like he's a young player, so maybe. I've been so impressed with Mark McGuinness this year, to the point where if one of them ever gets, or at the moment, if one of them gets dropped to play Panzo, it ain't going to be McGuinness. If he keeps pushing on, he'll be in the Island side before long. He's 22. Obviously started his career at Arsenal, played 60 games for Cardiff now. He's been really, really impressed by him this year. And I think he's one that we should definitely keep an eye on. Do you know, I would think it's going to be pretty end-to-end in terms of, I think, not necessarily end-to-end, chance after chance after chance, but I think it's going to be end-to-end you go, I go, and then position and break down. I think a lot of it will come down to when Cardiff have the ball, if we can maintain the high level of passing that we've shown since the start of the season. We've got to keep the ball well when we create chances, because Cardiff City will create chances at Sunderland tomorrow. What we need to do is we need to take them in case we only get one or two. So it's really, really important that Cardiff take their chances. For Cardiff, I said the key man for Sunderland was obviously Jack Clark and Bellingham. My key man for Cardiff is so people would think, oh, it's Aaron Ramsey, and it's obvious. But actually, I think the key man for Cardiff, whether Cardiff win, or lose, or draw, will actually be Wintle. Obviously, Siopis is vital to the way Cardiff play, but if Wintle plays as well as he's played in the last couple of games, then I believe that Cardiff City will have a very good chance of winning, because you have Ramsey, we know what he can do. We know he's been outstanding. You have Siopis has changed fundamentally, transcended the way Cardiff City have played football this year. But Siopis has also transformed the way that Ryan Wintle plays football. And I absolutely think that Wintle could be a real big player tomorrow, because those central areas are so important for Cardiff tomorrow, because that's where all of Sunderland's best play starts in the middle. And Anwick is a good shout as well. Anwick really is vital to Cardiff tomorrow. We need him to be that guy. We need him to be what he's been all season. He's made some such good, amazing saves. But it's not even the saves or the way he's used the ball, which is everyone loves at the moment, is keepers who can pass. It's the way he dominates his box. He's quick off his line. It's the way he takes the pressure off his defence with his crosses and his coming out to collect crosses and talks to him all the time. Reese says, don't like to say it, but Rawls has become an impact sub for me, if I'm honest. If we can sign another passing midfielder in January, I think Rawls' time at the club is done. Well, there's two things I'd say to that, mate. Number one, football's a squad game these days. You need 16 players that you can absolutely trust. You need 16 players that you can put into your side and it won't affect how your team plays. You have to have that. So there's nothing wrong with being a sub or being part of the squad, being part of the 16. Number two, I would say Joe Rawls has been excellent this season when he's been called upon. I think Siopis has helped him so drastically. The only reason Joe Rawls doesn't start for me tomorrow is because I think Wintle and Siopis give the defence a bit more protection away from home. And also, there's no way you can drop either one of them because they've both been so good. But also, Joe Rawls doesn't really deserve to be dropped. That's why I think Ruben Corwell didn't come in direct for Ramsey against Coventry, because I think that Joe Rawls didn't deserve to be dropped. But the other two had just become good. And I think he decided to change the system slightly and go and give Rawls his place back in the team. I think I understand that. And obviously the experience side of it. Matthew says, being a Newcastle lad, Alnwick will be well up for it. Hope we haven't cursed him. Yeah, he'll be bang up for it. Reece says, I think Ebo Adams Rina Mota, both better box-to-box and ball-winning midfielders. And I would think if Sawyers could play the role, Rawls wouldn't be on the bench. He stood out for so many years. Mate, I wouldn't put... I think the role Joe Rawls plays is important. You need midfielders who can pass at a high level. I agree with you. He's probably not a starter. Ebo Adams is a defensive midfielder, mate. I think he's got a lot to prove. I think he's a good player, someone who can sit in front of the defence if you want to keep it tight. He can also play defensively. I don't think he's got enough about him, from what I've seen, to be a deep line playmaker, to push on, stuff like that. I don't think he's quite got what Joe Rawls has got in that aspect. And look, as you know, mate, I've been quite critical of Joe Rawls in that, like, what is he? Is he a defensive midfielder? Is he box to box? Is he a deep line creative player? Like, I didn't quite know what he was. But one thing you can not doubt is that he cares. He's good at football. He's good vision, good passer. And having Siopis next to him has really changed how he looks. He looks way better than he's looked. What game was it? The last game before the international break, I think it was. Rawls looked like the Joe Rawls of about 5 years ago. And I think a lot of that goes to Siopis. I think, look, I don't disagree with you, mate. I think if we can get the right midfielder in, I think it's worth it. I think, like, for me, if Cardiff could sign Kiefer Moore, a really good, combative, creative midfielder, and probably a left back, they would be my 3 signings now. And then have a look in the summer then after that. Excuse me. Matthew says, as a manager, if you had to pick the team, who would the first name on your team sheet be as it stands with the squad as it is? So Matthew says Siopis would be for him. Yeah, I think that Ramsey's obviously Aaron Ramsey's the first name on the team sheet. Outside of that, Siopis, McGuinness. Oh, Jaden, don't, mate. It depresses me every time I think about it. Jaden says we should have signed Tunazabi. Yeah, we absolutely should have signed Tunazabi. Was on a free ball playing defender who can play in midfield. And where's he gone? Ipswich Town. Oh, it makes me sick. We were in talks with him at one point in the summer. I think from what I understand, is we were in talks with him, and then we moved on. Like, we kind of went away and then went back. Didn't make him feel like he was a priority. And I think Joe Rawls hasn't got the legs he once had, but it is what it is. Age catches up with us all, my friends. So, unfortunately, we just have to deal with it. But I think he's still a good squad player, and he's certainly good when if you need to control games off the bench, just come in and be able to play. One problem I do think we've got is, and Matthews alluded it today, if Siopis was to get injured or suspended, I think Cardiff could have a problem, because we'd have a real problem, because we got no one. Like, we're just going back to Wintle and Rawls then, and that's the real weakness in that squad. That's the one position where one injury or suspension to one man, and we're back to the midfield that we've struggled with for so long, with no legs. So that's worrying to me, which is why I say midfielder, defend left back, and and just someone. Yeah, just someone. But there we go. I think we missed Psyopis more than any other player. Well, Jaden, you've kind of like really brought me down now thinking about Tunzabi. I really wanted us to sign him. I was also quite hopeful that we might get Hannibal on loan, but he's playing for United tonight, so I think it's very clear that Ten Hag likes him. He's a real good player, man. But yeah, I think in terms of tomorrow's game, my prediction will be 2-1 to Cardiff still, like it was on Thursday. And I do think I've got a feeling. I've got a feeling in my bones. I fancy Cardiff. Maybe I'm being a bit sort of, but I fancy us. I just seen the Bruno Fernandes finish. Oof, what a volley that is. Great finish. Yeah, I fancy Cardiff tomorrow, I take a point, absolutely, but I just fancy us to pinch 3 points. It'll be interesting how Sunderland try to navigate playing us. Like, will they treat us with respect and just kind of will they treat us with respect and change their system to accommodate, like, to stop some of our players? Like, let's not forget that Swansea game was on Sky last week. So these Championship, the analysts from the clubs, they will have watched that. They will have watched Tanner doing well. They will have watched Psyopis dominating the games. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to answer that. I was going to wrap up, Matt, but I'm going to answer that for whichever reason I'll tell you. So Matthew just said, could Joel Colwell, Ruben Colwell's brother, be the next Psyopis? Young lad with loads of talent, much to learn from the players in the senior team, even just watching their performances, let alone training with them. So I can't tell you who, but an ex-Cardiff City player who I've had on the podcast told me that Joel Colwell is even better than his brother, more highly rated. Like, everyone at the club is super excited about Joel, and everyone at the club is super excited about Ruben. But Joel Colwell apparently is the real deal. So it'll be very interesting if no, it wasn't Derek. If they can keep progress. The problem is for these young players is playing. Once they get to 17, 18, they need to be playing adult football. They need to be playing competitive adult football. And with no reserve team league, you've only got the under 21s. And I think that's why we see, not just at Cardiff, but around the country, that's why we see youngsters struggling to adapt when they come into first team squads. They don't play enough with adults. They don't play enough against men. We got to get the reserve league back, like the old Pontins League and stuff. We used to talk about it a lot with Andy, but like, we need reserve leagues. They need to make like a combination of the old style Pontins leagues mixed with the 21s. Even if you make it so you have to have a minimum of 7 under 21s in the starting lineup or in the squad or whatever. So it's predominantly about bringing young players through, but then you can also have, players coming back from injuries, stuff like that. It's a difficult one, mate, but Joel Colwell is very highly rated. And mate, I urge you to Darren Pearce is like doing a tremendous job with the boys. And look, I urge you to go and watch the 21s play and watch the kids coming through, because there's some really, really good players down there at the moment. And it's always nice to know them before they come in and know what they're good at. Joel Colwell's an interesting one. I think he's too young now. He needs to bulk up like his brother did. I think that's been a big part of what Ruben Colwell's done this year, is he's bulked up a little bit. He doesn't look like a skinny kid anymore. Ruben Colwell looks like an athlete, and Joel's young, and got to give these guys time to grow out, like let them grow into their bodies. Look, Cardiff City 2, Sunderland 1 is my prediction, but it's going to be a very hard game. I would take it. If you could give me a point now, I'd take it. Continue the unbeaten run and keep going, because we've got some winnable games coming up. But Championship's a weird one. Plymouth beat Norwich 6-2 today. Like, the Championship is a weird one. Anyone can beat anyone. We know this. Yeah. Guys, enjoy the game. And I've said this privately to a few, but I'm going to say it again. If we get at least 5 new members between now and the end of next week, so like by the end of September, basically, if we get 5 new members on the Patreon, I will add match reactions. So like where we doing the previews, I'll do a post-match version as well for the games. But I'm to do that, it's more content, more time, etc. Need to bulk up those Patreon members. So if you know anyone who's not a member yet and you think they'd enjoy it and you think they'll be up for it, get them involved. I want 5 extra members by the end of September, and we'll add post-match reactions to the roster. Until then, take it easy, my friends. Have a good evening. God bless.